It's always hard your first season in the SEC, and Florida coach Billy Napier is doing his best to get the 4-3 Gators right. This has been a challenging run for the Florida Gators coming into this season. Start off with a great win against Utah, but here's one thing that he said, I think mainly about his defense was, we've been lights out and we've struggled. We're looking for more consistency. There is no magic pill. Just a real quick, um, look at what Florida's done this season. I think everybody saw the first 2 weeks. The win over Utah is a great win for Florida that they had in the swamp. I think Utah did all they could do to lose that game, and they did. And then a week later, not surprising at all, watching Kentucky win the game by 10. I was surprised that South Florida pushed Florida to the brink. I mean, the Gators were fortunate to win that game. And then I thought Tennessee would win the game against the Gators a little bit more convincingly than they did, winning it only by 5. That came very, very, I mean, like too close for comfort, um, in my view. And then I listened to the Eastern Washington game. That was just not competitive. They really struggled, I would say, against Missouri a week after Georgia beat the Tigers by 4 on the road. This was at home for the Gators. Missouri, their defense is pretty good. Their offense is not ideal, but it's a top 25 defense. Mizzou could, that's not ideal to go up against that. And then, a week ago, I think this is where a lot of the drama, if you want to call it drama, has started with Billy Napier. I mean, the loss to Kentucky was one thing. The way they played against South Florida was just not good at all. And then, to play against Tennessee the way they did, it's really been the LSU game, because that game doesn't seem like a rivalry. They're not geographically touching each other. There's a lot of stuff in that game that makes that rivalry, that makes it strange, but it definitely is a rivalry. It's a weird one, but those are two of the best programs in the history of the last 30 years in the SEC for sure. They both won multiple national championships, three each. No, what? Three each since 1996. So those are two really good programs. And Florida just got, I mean, they only lost by 10, but they really got beat up pretty good in that game. I mean, I think they were down 42 to 28, if memory serves correct. It was just not an ideal situation a week ago. Um, they were down 28 to 21 at the half, and then LSU put it on them in the third quarter, 14 to nothing, and that pushed that out to a 42 to 21 lead, and it was just like it was getting close to being nasty. The Gators scored two touchdowns to kind of in the fourth to kind of make it look halfway not that bad, but they solidly got defeated in that game. You know, but Billy was talking about there is no magic pill. He's exactly correct. That's why this week is so critical for everybody in college football that's off this week. This is the area of the year where everyone takes a week off. If you want to take off dinner tonight or lunch tomorrow or lunch today and dinner tonight or whatever, our friends at DoorDash, you see the sign right behind me. They got a great offer for a limited time. Dog Post listeners can get up to 50% off of a $20 value with a zero delivery fees when you download the DoorDash app. The link is right down below. You enter the code DAWG, DAWG, just like Dog Post. That's 50% off up to a $20 value and zero delivery fees when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store. Enter the code DAWG, DAWG. Don't forget the code is DAWG, DAWG, for 50% off of a $20 value, up to a $20 value, and zero delivery fees with DoorDash, subject to change and terms apply. We use DoorDash. It is a good product. It is a good service, I should actually say, with good products that they are, serving to you. And it's an ideal situation. There's going to be a lot of y'all that are going down to Jacksonville this next week. A lot of folks go out to eat, but if you just kind of get back to the place that you're staying, you're like, you know what? I don't feel like messing with it. DoorDash is a great option. And if you do that, link down below, the code DAWG, It's a really great offer, period. Um, Billy was talking about there is no magic pill, and there's not, but um, part of it is Florida's. So the teams Florida's played this season. Obviously, we watch a lot of football on Dog Post. I would argue we watch more than most college football reporters, certainly more than the public. Um, and you can tell Florida's not as gifted as they've been, 10 years ago when Urban Meyer was there 12 years ago, I guess 12 and 13 years ago. Those kind of guys, Percy Harvin's of the world, they're not there. Guys that absolutely frighten you. The running back is very good, ETN. Like, what I mean by that is he's a scary guy, Tank Bigsby type scary. If he gets loose, he's probably gone. But Richardson has not been consistent. 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. A year ago, against the Dogs, Anthony Richardson had a tough night or tough afternoon. It's long shadows and so forth. There's Anthony right there getting the ball removed from his possession by Nolan Richardson, by Nolan Smith, and you can just see, it's not like uh, the ball was loose. He took it from him. And Florida, and there's the play is nearly done. They got 4 Georgia players just hanging out. But like look at the swarming to the ball. There's 4 up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't see this here, but 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Georgia players are in this one image. That's what you're going to be dealing with, the Gators, in 9 days. 8 days when y'all see this, whatever it is. Make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION. The link is down below. You order it today. I send it off to you, and you get a shirt. But you need to tell me if you want the shirt. You have to email me, dean@dawgpost.com. There's no magic pill, and the Gators got to play better too. They played well against Utah. They collapsed against Kentucky. They did not play well against South Florida. I thought they played okay against Tennessee, to be honest. But they have not been consistent this season. It's just been something. It's been one thing after another. The Missouri game, Florida was in control of that game until they weren't. I mean, they had, they just never could get rid of Missouri against LSU. Again, I talked about the dangerous third quarter, that Florida really got into trouble there. Against Utah, Florida really played. I think the fans in the swamp really helped them in that game because Utah consistently scored. Florida didn't score in the third, but it exploded, if you want to call it that, for 15 in the fourth. And then you look like what happened against Kentucky. The Gators did not score in the second half. They were up 16-13 going into the half, and Kentucky scored 13 points in the third and fourth quarters. So the inconsistency through the season is what's going to get Florida beat. I think, if there was a magic pill, you would want it to be a consistency pill. If Florida would play consistently, they would have a chance against Georgia. I think they would have a rudimentary chance to hang in there and let's just see if Georgia does what happened against Missouri. That's the way they played last year, Florida. I thought they played pretty well last year against Georgia in the first half. But the other problem with dealing with the Dogs is not only do you have to play well, but you have to survive their runs. So, just as an example, a reminder, if you will, of what you're dealing with when you're dealing with Georgia. Okay, this Georgia team against Oregon. Now, remember that was the beginning of the season. We all know the deal there. But they scored 28 points unanswered in the first quarter. Excuse me, in the first half. I believe they were unanswered. It was 28-3 at the half. Against Samford, obviously, 30-0 at the half. South Carolina, it's clicked straight to the Missouri game. South Carolina, they're up 24-0 at the half. South Carolina just cannot do anything on the ground. Kent State, Georgia, this is the worst they played offensively. They still scored 26 points in the first half. Against Missouri, the onslaught came after the first quarter, so they outscored Missouri 20-6 in a game where Missouri needed every single point they could get. Auburn, Georgia was only up 14. Then they scored 21 fourth quarter points. And then obviously a week ago against Vanderbilt, just really steady, two touchdowns, then a couple field goals, then 3 touchdowns. You got to deal with them all the time. And you have to survive that. And part of that is getting first downs. And it's just right now it's hard to see where a team that's as inconsistent as the Gators are will compete for 4 quarters with Georgia. They need everything to go right in the first 20 minutes of the game, the Gators. And they had that a year ago. Okay? They did. Um, a year ago, Florida was hanging in there. I'm trying to remember the score. Yeah, it was the the last 2 minutes of the half. Georgia scored multiple touchdowns in the closing minutes of the half. They were down 10-0, Florida. I mean, you're down 10-0 and you can hang in there at the half. But it's everything. Everybody has to play well, and Florida's just not shown that. And that's something that Billy Napier talked about in the press conference this week. Can they do that? Maybe they'll find some magic pills.